And everybody, this has been an absolutely incredible scene. My cameraman and I, Dean, had the opportunity to walk close down to the towers. When they were on fire, we could see the gray smoke coming out of them, the big holes on each side of the towers. We were pushed back by a police officer. He told us not to stand on Trinity Street any longer. And when he told us that, a few minutes later, all of a sudden we heard the earth shake. We heard this rumbling noise. We looked up into the sky. Now just go ahead and understand this. We looked up into the sky and we saw this gray cloud, a huge gray cloud full of debris coming at us, standing about 30 stories tall. It kept rolling and rolling toward us, and then all of a sudden when we realized it, we had to get on the run and get out of there. We were right in the way of that plume of smoke coming at us, and then we ran into a store. At the moment we ran into the store, black and gray, we realized that the first tower had gone down at that point in time. A rather spectacular scene. It looks like a nuclear winter down here, and the entire area around City Hall, all the dust and debris. You might be able to see some of it in front of me. That dust and debris is coming. Like this happening. It is absolutely an incredible scene down here near the World Trade Center. We feel very fortunate that that police officer, who was a member of the Port Authority Cops police force, told us to get out of the area. He was absolutely right, because a few minutes later, that's when that first tower started crumbling down to the ground. We have no reports on any injuries. Police activity down here has been heavy. Ambulance crews keep coming in here. But I gotta tell you, 5 blocks from where we are right now, you couldn't believe the scene. The dust and the smoke and debris on the ground is a couple of inches thick. It looks like snow, and if you look over at the World Trade Center or where it used to be, they are all gone. There is no more World Trade Center. The top of those towers are absolutely gone. They're still telling anybody in this area to get out of the way. If you see our signal, please be wise, move out of the way, head home. A lot of the subways in this area have been shut down. They have told the people to go ahead and go home as quickly as you possibly can. It has been shocking. I can't believe what we have seen out here. They're still running some more pictures. As you can see, it was an incredible scene. We saw people that just ran out of their shoes, out of their house, and when the debris came down, a lot of people were caught outside. The smoke got into their system. They were coughing, having a tough time breathing. We talked to a lot of emergency personnel that were down there. A Red Cross man, he had run into the restaurant where we were. He was actually down there and luckily was able to escape. He was covered with gray soot and debris. We've seen a lot of people. We've also seen a number of people who did make it out. They wanted to somehow let their relatives know that they are all right. But of course, with this tragedy that we've seen at the World Trade Center today, you have to imagine that some people probably did not make it out all right. 2 planes apparently crashed into each tower of the World Trade Center this morning around 9 o'clock this morning. There's a police officer, as you can see in this picture. He was telling people to move out of the way, go to the ambulances, which were stationed right down the street. A couple of those guys came to us and asked us, were we okay? Now, our clothes are covered with gray soot. We have been out here all morning long. Like I say, we were down there when that first tower came down. It was incredible. It was unimaginable. It was hard to believe. And luckily, a whole lot of people were able to get out of the tower. Even some people who said they were above the crash line where the crash actually took place on the World Trade Center. Many of those people said they heard it, they felt it, they were able to get away. But unquestionably, a lot of people were not able to make it out alive. Let's take a live scene again of what it looks like here in downtown. You see that gray plume of smoke that is up in the air. It has covered all of lower Manhattan from City Hall southward. As we could imagine, southward is covered by dust. I'm talking about a thick gray soot, plenty of debris. It is an incredible sight. It is still smoking. Police officers are everywhere directing traffic, trying to move people through. We are just absolutely stunned and amazed by what has happened out here today. All of lower New York is clearing out. People are rushing from the scene. This has been an absolutely incredible incredible event. We cannot believe that we have witnessed what has happened here today. It started all around 9 o'clock this morning when that first plane crashed into the tower, and then the second plane crashed into the tower. It has been chaos and bedlam down here ever since. Live in Lower Manhattan, I'm Anthony Johnson, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Anthony, thank you. We cannot, ladies and gentlemen, talk to Anthony. Our communication systems is limited because of the collapse of the World Trade Center. Our broadcast towers are up there. If you're just joining us this morning, you're looking at what once was the World Trade Center in what appears to be a coordinated attack, a horrific sequence of destruction this morning. Beginning at 8:45, a plane, a 737 hijacked plane, authorities tell us, crashed into the World Trade Center. 18 minutes later, a second plane crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. At 9:35, 50 minutes after the first attack, a plane breached security and landed and crashed. There's the second plane going right into the World Trade Center. This happened at 9:03. Steve Bartelstein at Eyewitness News, if you were watching, you saw it live here on our air. At 9:35, a plane crashed into the Pentagon. That is still smoldering. At 10 a.m., the North Tower collapsed. At 10:15, the State Department reported a car bomb exploded outside in Washington. At 10:30, the second tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. What you're looking at now is just moments after 9:03, seconds after 9:03 a.m., the World Trade Center, both towers attacked. Those towers, ladies and gentlemen, exist no more. This is the first tower, the North Tower, imploding on itself.
At this point in time, we have no firm numbers in terms of casualties or injuries. Obviously, still in the midst of trying to rescue anyone down there that may have survived either the crash. What you're looking at, in fact, right now is St. Vincent's Hospital in the Village along 7th Avenue. Live pictures. Our reporters tell us that they have seen people coming in there, some of the injured, covered in soot, bruised, cut, battered. Again, no word yet on specific number of perhaps fatalities or injured.
This is a live picture, and I'm not sure this is from Newscopter. This may be from Empire. Is that correct? Do we know, control room? Is this from Empire? This is the Empire camera. I don't know where John Del Giorno is. We have lost contact with him. I misspoke. I misspoke. The first plane that crashed into the World Trade Center was a commuter plane. The second plane was a 737. Both, we are told by authorities, were likely hijacked. Andy Field, our former correspondent with Eyewitness News, is in Washington on the phone. Andy, where are you and what can you tell us?
Well, we're downtown in Washington right now in the center of what looks like an exodus. Every building is emptied out or is in the process of emptying out downtown. It is quickly going to become a ghost town in Washington, D.C. The roads are jammed, and certainly we have had nothing even remotely close to what has happened in New York City here. At the Pentagon, the side of the building that was hit is a section of the building where the helipad is, where dignitaries, where Pentagon officials, where the Secretary of Defense come and go when they land there. That is the part of the building they targeted there. It's unclear if anyone was hurt inside, but they have indeed evacuated the Pentagon too. That is almost empty as well. Traffic in D.C. is gridlocked. It is very difficult to get in or out in any way or form here. On the White House, there is an incredible security presence there. There are military jets flying up and down the mall here. They've evacuated the museums. They've evacuated the White House. In fact, I was going there to get my White House pass renewed today when they said, "Sorry, you got to go back. We can't have you here." And it's unclear where President Bush is going to go when he arrives back here in Washington. He's en route here if he's not already landed.
All right, Andy Field live on Washington, filling us in on what is going on there. As you see, this is that smoke at the Pentagon Andy was speaking of earlier. Back there, live picture, an eerie sight, something none of us ever expected to see. Lower Manhattan without those imposing twin towers standing there. Our Jeff Rawson is in Lower Manhattan live on Chambers Street.
And the Nextels and the cell phones are down right now, so we're having to use this to speak with you. We are at the corner of Chambers and Church right now, and I want to give you a live picture of exactly what's happening as you look down. Somebody's actually coming down the street right now in a stretcher. Many people have been injured here, although the FBI and New York City Police cannot tell us exactly what the numbers are at this point. Once again, we are at the corner of Chambers and Church, and I want to show you something else. We have seen building particles flying around. If you come down to the street level, The entire street in all areas, it seems wherever we go, is covered in this. We are covered in it as well. Right now, we see people walking around with these masks on. OEM, Office of Emergency Management from New York City, giving these out to people, saying if this building comes down again, and we've had a couple of them so far. We had the first couple of impacts, and you can see in a live picture the smoke is still coming out. Pieces of this building continue to fall every couple of minutes. You hear what sounds like a rumbling. I guess the best way to explain it to you would be if there were a subway coming under you. That's how it feels. When you're walking along the street and you kind of feel a subway rumbling under you, you feel that, and then all of a sudden, just a wall of particles come at you, and it is pitch black. We have actually had to take ourselves into buildings. OEM has had to knock out windows to let people into buildings that are stuck here on the street. They have evacuated the entire area. As to give you another live picture, down Chambers, you can see the fire department is lined up. Emergency personnel, this is affecting them as well. They're walking around with masks, walking around with pitchers of water at this point, throwing it on themselves because I'm not sure if you can see it, very fine little pieces of particles coming by the screen. You have to wear these masks. And I just want to stay with these live pictures as you see emergency crews trying to mobilize. Hi, sir, were you here for this?
Yes, sir.
What was this like for you?
Oh, it was terrifying. The ground was shaking, right? I seen the second plane go into the building. It was like a direct hit sensor.
Were you in the World Trade or were you in the area?
I was in the area. I was working, right? I seen the second one go in, right? It was like it went straight directly into the centerpiece. And it just came down. It was like a ball of fire, and the ground was shaking.
I see you have water here. What are you exactly using that for?
I'm using it to drink and to give to other people.
Many people are hurt. Thank you so much. We've actually had a couple of people. We're having a hard time turning around our tape right now because our truck is full of dust. That's exactly how much dust we're talking about. Our deck is not working. However, I can tell you, we had a woman sitting in our live truck earlier who was literally covered in blood from her toes to her head. She was sitting in our truck filled with dust. She says she was actually on the 82nd. In fact, we just heard another explosion. We just heard another explosion a moment ago. So we're going to stay here as long as we can, but as soon as it becomes dangerous, of course, we will move. Let me tell you a little more about this woman. She was sitting in our truck covered in blood, said she was on the 82nd floor. As soon as they heard that first plane come in, they started running down. It was clear until the 70th floor, but then the problem was a jam inside the stairwell. They ran down below the promenade where all the shopping centers and all the shopping stores are, and then they were able to run. Still, police having a hard time evacuating the whole area. You can see there are many people around, but the streets are jammed now with emergency vehicles. I can't hear you that well right now. I'm going to try to take this here and send it back to you. We don't have a link with you, but we will come back in a couple of minutes and exactly let you know the latest. But again, no word right now on injuries or fatalities at the scene. But the FBI now reporting to Channel 7 Eyewitness News that National Guard has jets in the air. This is a no-fly zone at this point. So if they see any jets that are unidentified, those jets are armed from the National Guard. That is what the FBI is telling us right now.
Okay, Jeff, thank you. It looks, and Jeff, you just heard Jeff report that there was sounds of another explosion. That looks like new smoke, not dust, rising from it.
That is definitely, certainly a deeper color smoke. In fact, you can see the differentiation between what appears to be a dust cloud and this fresh smoke. We have not confirmed exactly what that might have been, but again, our Jeff Rawson live at Chambers Street is telling us that as he was on the air, he heard another explosion. As soon as we get some information, some clarity on what that is or might have been, we'll let you know.
You also heard Jeff talk to an eyewitness who was was it the 86th floor?
82nd
floor. Earlier, Steve Bartelstein had talked to a man who had talked about this log jam in the evacuation process. This is Times Square. You know, the remarkable thing is New Yorkers and anyway from the shots we've seen, seem to have stayed incredibly calm throughout this. There is, in fact, nothing we can really do about this right now except gather information and keep our wits about us, and New Yorkers seem to be doing that.
In fact, I was on the street as I walked in, rushed in this morning, just from a few blocks away, and it was something that was interesting to me. I've only lived here about 4 years. There were people on every street corner. There are televisions, as you know, in every store, every bodega, business along the street, gathered in clumps. People are in our front lobby. This is everyone around the city. They are absolutely mesmerized. A sense of disbelief, really, that this is going on the other end of Manhattan. But again, it's sort of an eerie calm.
Bill Ritter, along with Sandra Bookman, will bring you extended coverage from Eyewitness News of this horrible tragedy. We're going to bring Jim Dolan in a minute, but first we want to go to David Usher. As you see a live picture of the Washington Bridge shut down. David has been following all the closings that have occurred this morning. David, bring us the latest as we look at a live picture of the remnants of the World Trade Center.
Well, Bill, here's the underlying difficulty, as Anthony Johnson and Jeff tried to explain, is people trying to get out of that area, but transportation has effectively ground to a halt out of a safety measure. And so all New York City subways continue to remain shut down, and that, according to the New York City Transit spokesman Bob Slovak, is for preventative reason. We know that the New Jersey Transit has suspended all train service into New York and Hoboken in the wake of what has happened here. All of the river crossings, of course, as we mentioned, are shut down. Buses not running. A few are running. And Sandra explained her experience in walking in. Diana Williams, our anchor, just coming in, describing the situation from as far north into the city, coming from Westchester and down into the city. The same type of scene with people not really moving on the street corners, trying to get around, but effectively nothing moving, even though the activity focused in the lower end of Manhattan. As Dave Evans has reported to you, the New York City primary election was called off today. The Board of Elections says the judge charged with overseeing the election called it off because of the massive confusion right now in New York City, and there's no word on when that election will take place. We are, as you heard earlier, trying to get an assessment of situations at the hospital. We know triage was set up at several schools near the scene, and we know that Bellevue, Beekman, other hospitals, of course, receiving the injured. We're trying to ascertain that. We're also getting word that some injured taken by boat across the Hudson into Jersey City. So we're also following that for you as well. Mayor Giuliani is scheduled to have a news conference. I shouldn't say scheduled because we don't know what time. We believe, and we're trying to check reports on a command center being set up in One Police Plaza, but it is unclear right now. But we are trying to track that down. Dave Evans on that as well. Schools, again, the high schools near the scene, Leadership in Public Service, Economics and Science, Murray Bertram, on Pearl Street and Trinity Street, they were shut down, evacuated. We're told that other students being kept into the schools and parents need to pick them up. So information continuing to come in, and we're continuing to follow it for you, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we get it. Back to you, Bill and Sandra.
All right, Dave, we want to reiterate that we do not have any number, any official tally of casualties or fatalities. We assume there are some. Mayor Giuliani, as you heard David report, is scheduled to have a news conference at some point. He does say, according to The Wire, that, quote, I have a sense there is a horrendous number of lives lost. I don't know yet. Right now we have to focus on saving as many lives as possible. That we have ascertained, we're assuming from the eyewitness reports we've had, both Steve Bartlestein's interviews and the interviews that our reporters have done in the field, that the evacuation, at least the 82nd floor, seemed to be going fairly well before the second explosion. So we are assuming that a lot of people have been have evacuated and escaped safely. We are getting word that the Midtown Tunnel, Sandra, what did you hear? The Midtown Tunnel has been...
Midtown Tunnel has been reopened, going outbound.
Outbound only, not inbound.
Okay. Bill, we heard just a moment ago, you read what Rudy Giuliani, Mayor Giuliani, had to say about this. Governor Pataki has also made a statement to the Associated Press. He says today's horrific incident at the World Trade Center, which appears to be part of a coordinated terrorist attack, as we've been telling you all day, he says is a tragedy of unspeakable proportions and a crime against all Americans and all decent people around the world. He says, I have been in contact with President Bush and Mayor Giuliani to ensure that the appropriate emergency response is as effective and well coordinated as possible. He says, as a precautionary measure, we have closed all non-emergency related state government offices in New York City.
Again, we do not know, Jim and Sandra, where Mayor Rudy Giuliani is. The so-called command center bunker was on the 23rd story of, and I don't know which tower it was it?
South Tower, and that's the place where they're supposed to go normally when there is a tragedy, a terrorist attack, something like that in the city. That's where, when there's a hurricane on the way. That's where
emergency management.
Exactly right. That's where all the related city agencies go to coordinate something like this. Of course, they can't go there now.
Right. Do we know? I wonder where the city is now coordinating emergency activities.
I don't. We should find that out. And but the Office of Emergency Management has offices about a block from City Hall, just across the street from City Hall. But I don't know. I think that's at 250 Broadway. I think. I'm not sure. But we'll find that out. It's a good point. Bill, we were talking earlier about the 747. We thought earlier that it was a 767 that went down
in Pennsylvania,
Somerset County Airport. We are not We were reporting earlier that it was a 767. Later reports are that it is a 747, and we didn't know at the time and still don't whether it is related in any way to what we have seen in Washington and in New York City today. But we do know that we are being told that that plane either came out of New York or Cleveland and was bound for Chicago. Again, these stories are unfolding slowly. We will get more information as it becomes available, but right now that 747 that crashed near the Somerset County Airport, we aren't sure whether it was on its way trying to land at the Somerset County Airport, which really isn't big enough to handle a 747. It is the largest plane in the air. The 747 is the largest plane in the air right now.
And of course, we were told, and this has been the case almost for 2 hours, all airports in the United States have been closed for takeoffs, and all planes in the air at the time were told to land at the nearest airport. And we are assuming, although we don't know for sure, that might have been what this plane was doing.
And we have no... Okay. We've got reporters all over Lower Manhattan at this point in time. Michelle Charlesworth has been on the West Side Highway with the towers behind her for much of the morning. She is live there now.
We have no way to communicate with you except you can hear us, we can't hear you. Our cell phones haven't worked for about an hour and a half. We are about 30 blocks from Ground Zero, beneath the World Trade Center. Behind me, what used to be the World Trade Center, the two towers now gone, and the smoke changing color every second. One of the people who was down below, Michael Walters, who was a photojournalist, a freelance journalist, you were down there with your camera. Tell me what you saw.
I mean, I went down there initially just to take some pictures of a burning building, and when I was down there, I mean, I was quite close. I was right at the marina at the base of the tower, and all of a sudden you heard people scream, and you saw that people were jumping out of the building. I mean, you knew it wasn't debris because their arms were flailing, and I mean, it was just incredible.
Stop taking pictures.
That's when I stopped taking pictures. I mean, actually, I sat down and started to cry because I was just so... I mean, it's like I said, it's one thing to take pictures of a burning building, but it's another thing to go and take pictures of people jumping.
One of the things you told me before is how can two huge buildings come down and small pieces of paper come down absolutely unscathed? How does that happen?
I mean, this was after the first explosion. I was sort of right next to the panic, and I was... I'm sorry.
So I think it's understandable.
I was... After the first building exploded and went to move out of the way, there was just walking through this debris. It was like all volcanic ash. Just everything was coated in it, and
you're covered.
I'm covered. Yeah. And just single pieces of paper. You're walking through. You're seeing briefcases. You're seeing shoes. You're seeing just. I mean, like I said, single pieces of paper with people's handwriting that a whole building explodes and they're left unscathed, just sitting there flapping. You know, I mean.
Michael, thank you so much for spending time with us and telling us what you saw. Another person who saw it is one of other reporters, Cheryl Fiandaca, who was down, literally, you were right next to these buildings when they came down.
Right, we were about 2 blocks away when the second explosion hit, and all we heard was just this small explosion. Then you saw a roar of an explosion and all kinds of smoke billowing out, debris falling down, people running, the firefighters and police screaming at everyone to run as the debris was coming down and hitting people. It's just total chaos and an incredibly frightening situation down there.
I saw the video that was actually taken right where you were, and people running out and coughing and unable to breathe at all.
Oh, it's unbelievable. There's between the smoke and whatever debris and everything else that's floating through the air, and there's also some concerns that there may be something in the air down there. So people are rolling up their windows. Firefighters have their masks on, and they're asking everybody to stay away. Although people are still trying to get down there to see what's going on.
No, I know.
It's a very, very scary situation down there.
No, the whole city's on lockdown. People have been asking us. They've been coming up to us saying, are the subways open? No, they're on lockdown. The bridges and tunnels are closed. There's no way to get out of the city except for by foot. And you can see it's kicking up a lot of this dust as all of the emergency vehicles come out of here. People have been asking you as well as I, is this chemical or biological warfare? Do we know? We have no idea. It's just an acrid smell. Just tells you what happened.
Right, we just have no idea at this point. There are a lot of injuries and a lot of problems down there. A lot of firefighters are injured, and we've seen tons of ambulances going by most of the morning as we've been here watching what's going on. It's just it's an incredible situation. Incredible.
Apocalyptic. I have to say that the words ring true. The photojournalist who said it's hard to be a journalist and not be a human being and watch this. We're all New Yorkers and we're all Americans, and watching this happen is unbelievable. We've lost our skyline, and as a country, I think it's fair to say we've lost our innocence. We're live on the West Side Highway. Michelle Charlesworth, ABC7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Michelle. Sarah Wallace, our chief investigative correspondent in the newsroom, following the latest for us. Sarah?
Well, Bill, actually what we're hearing is the possibility right now of another explosion. That's what a phone caller is telling us in front of the Embassy Suites Park Hotel down near Battery Park. That caller telling us that every single car in front of the hotel was completely blown up. We're, of course, trying to confirm that now. I also spoke to a police source close to the scene. He told me, quote, I personally saw several people jumping out of windows of the Trade Center. Their priority right now is the concern that they have, quote, numerous fatalities. They're also concerned that they may still have people trapped in the area. That, of course, is the first priority. That triage area now set up in the whole perimeter down there by the World Trade Center. That's the first priority here. And then, of course, trying to determine who is behind this.
Sarah, you're saying the calls came into the newsroom. One call or many calls?
One call that we know for a fact, and another one apparently after that. A person saying that he absolutely saw cars blow up right in front of him, right in front of this hotel.
We heard Jeff Rawson. I don't know if you heard the interview or not. When Jeff was talking, he was in the middle of a live shot, and he heard an explosion about 15 minutes ago, and right after that we took a shot from the Empire camera and could see new smoke coming up from right around the Battery Park area. So we don't know anything. We're getting obviously one call and another call into the newsroom. There does appear to be new smoke down there that's different than the pure white dust of the collapsed building. Is that correct? Can you see that, Sarah?
Absolutely, Bill, and that fits the time frame here of the second call, that all the cars, in fact, blew up right in front of this particular hotel. And
it might have been very well indeed what Jeff Rawson heard. Sarah, thanks. Keep on this, obviously. Sam?
As we've said all morning, we've got no confirmation on the number of possible fatalities. They are likely many. Also, no confirmation on the number of injuries. However, we do know that people are being taken into the hospitals around the city. Our Lauren Glassberg has been live this morning at St. Vincent's Hospital in the West Village.
All right, we are live in front of St. Vincent's Hospital. This is a level 1 trauma center, and throughout the morning, ambulances have been pulling up. You can see right behind me, the doctors, the nurses, the emergency personnel are waiting for the next ambulance to pull in. I would say about every minute or so, a car or an ambulance pulls up. We are told, we just had a briefing by a hospital spokesman, that 112 people are at the hospital. Many of them are in critical condition, but as the hours go by, the numbers are climbing, especially since the collapse of the two buildings. The people being brought in now are mostly victims of smoke inhalation, but the range of injuries covers the gamut from cuts, bruises, gashes from glass and debris flying. You can see over my shoulder there, ambulances are pulling up. Many of them are just getting ready to go downtown, and here comes another one driving by. Some of them are being rerouted to other hospitals depending on how severe the injuries are. But this is level 1, and the doctors here say they are ready for as many patients that come in. We do want to point out there is a blood shortage, so all New Yorkers are being asked to go to hospitals. St. Vincent's has enough donations right now, but if you go to the hospital in your area, there's a good chance they'll be needing blood from you. That's because there are so many victims in this terrible tragedy. Also, if you believe you have relatives who are at St. Vincent's, there is an emergency number for you to call. It is 212-604-7285, 212-604-7285. Only call that number if you believe your relatives or your close ones are at St. Vincent's and you need a checkup on them. Take one more look. You can see, again, they are lined up. All of the non-essential care has been postponed until further notice. Right now, we are just treating, here at St. Vincent's, they are just treating the victims of this explosion, the two plane crashes at World Trade Center and the collapses that resulted shortly thereafter. And that's the latest from here. Also do want to mention that Cardinal Egan came over. He is at the hospital. He has been talking to the victims, consoling their families, and he says that he is saying a prayer for all the victims, and he wants all New Yorkers to do the same. We're live at St. Vincent's Hospital. Yet another ambulance pulling in. Lauren Glassberg, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Lauren, thank you. Again, that phone number only if you really believe you have a loved one in that hospital. We're showing it on the screen right now. St. Vincent's Emergency at area code 212-604-7285. We show this for people who believe strongly that they may have a loved one or a friend or a family member, actually not friends, family members or loved ones. We want to bring in our chief assignment editor for the night, the 11 o'clock edition of Eyewitness News, Howard Price. He lives in Bergen County. Howard, as I understand it, and I'm getting this on the fly, you're on a cell phone, is that, or are you on a landline?
Actually, Bill, good morning on this very sorrowful day for all New Yorkers, indeed all Americans. I am here in Valhalla, Westchester County, at the headquarters of the New York State Army National Guard. This is the 53rd Troop Command. This is the command for the Army National Guard resources that serve New York City. This place has been a beehive of activity, certainly from almost the moment of the first reports of the tragedy this morning. I am standing now probably no more than 20-25 feet from a blue and white Army personnel carrier emblazoned with the logo of the Westchester County Police. This is a fully equipped assault unit, not unlike the New York City Police Department's own Peacekeeper vehicle. We've seen it on TV many times. This unit has its lower doors open. It is waiting for personnel and materiel. The Westchester County Department of Public Service County Police boat is now been hooked up to a trailer. It is now awaiting fire and EMT personnel from all over Westchester County. It is probably a very little consolation to New York City right now, but they need to know that they do not stand alone at this moment. There are suburban fire rescue personnel, police personnel coming in from all over the area. Bergen County is mobilizing. Here in Westchester County, we have trucks and volunteer firefighters, people who have left their homes, their jobs, up here to help their brethren in New York City. It is really an unbelievable response that I'm looking at right now, Bill.
All right, Howard Price, one of our assignment editors, talking to us about the National Guard mobilization in Westchester County. We're again looking at a picture, and where is this from? Can someone tell me in our control room? It's across the... Once was the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. We want to go over the timeline quickly, and then we're going to bring in Jim Dolan to talk about a group that claimed responsibility, and a late development on that. At 8:45, a commuter plane crashed into the North Tower of the Trade Center. Right, that was at 9:03, a 737 crashes into the South Tower. 9:35, a plane crashes into the Pentagon in Washington.
Those planes were the World Trade Center attacks, or with whether one of them was down at the Pentagon in Washington. But American Airlines confirming that 2 of the planes used in terrorist attacks today were hijacked from them. Bill?
Well, also should point out that in addition to that, we've had a third plane, or fourth plane perhaps, go down in western Pennsylvania. At this point in time, a 747. It has not, I must make clear, been connected to either the events here in New York or in Washington, but we do know that plane went down this morning, Somerset County in western Pennsylvania. We are still attempting to get some confirmation on how many people may have been on board. We are told that plane either came from New York or Cleveland. Again, not connected, but certainly on this morning of horrific and unbelievable events. It certainly appears to perhaps have been part of what is now a coordinated attack.
And you're seeing the scene at St. Vincent's Hospital in Greenwich Village. They're bringing wounded in. You can see them right now. The fire department and paramedics, EMT personnel bringing what looks like one wounded person. I can't say if it's a woman or a man. It looks like a man.
Yes, it is.
Coming in. He's got an oxygen mask on him. We are getting word the police are evacuating the 3 passenger terminals, A, B, and C, at Newark International Airport. The airport, of course, has been closed since these attacks this morning in the World Trade Center. All airports in the United States are closed for takeoffs. All planes in and around flying in the United States have been told and ordered to land at the nearest available airport. We assume that has been completed. Police, we're told, are evacuating the 3 passenger terminals at Newark. Jim.
7 Flight 77, a Boeing 757 from Dulles to Los Angeles, also hijacked 58 passengers on board, 4 flight attendants, and 2 pilots. What we don't know is which of those planes, where that plane crashed, whether it was the second plane that hit the World Trade Center or whether it was the plane that hit the Pentagon, the landing pad, the helicopter landing pad at the Pentagon.
What kind of plane was that, Jim? The
a 757, a Boeing 757, 58 passengers on board, 4 flight attendants, 2
And we
pilots.
also have a 767 that went down in western Pennsylvania.
No, Bill, that was a 747.
Okay,
and
sorry.
And we want to keep all
right.
these. And again, it's not clear whether that 747 was involved in all of this terrorist activity, but it is safe to point out that one of the people investigating that crash has said that that flight was either from New York or from Cleveland. They were not sure.
We have been reporting that the second plane to crash into the second tower was a 737, but you're saying now American Airlines is saying that was a 767.
Yes.
A huge jumbo jet, twin engine jet, wide body that crashed into that second tower. We are told, and we were just going to show you this videotape, we are told that some of the reaction for some people in some sections of the Middle East was one of celebration and cheering when they heard the news. Do we know where this is from? I don't want to...
Where in the Middle East?
Well,
And Bill, again, all this information is coming to us, bits and pieces at a time, but I just want to point out that that 767 is the plane that hit the first tower. The first plane to hit the tower was the 767.
And how many people were on board that plane, Jim?
81 passengers, 9 flight attendants, and 2 pilots.
Okay. We are just getting word also that the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania was a 747 United Airlines flight. We do not know whether this was connected to these terrorist attacks, but it is obviously on our radar screen. A United Airlines 747 taking off from Newark International Airport this morning on its way to San Francisco is the plane that we have been reporting that crashed at Somerset County, just north of Somerset County Airport. Again, we don't know if that's connected. All planes around that time were told to land at the nearest immediate airport, a 747, the largest aircraft flying in the world. I don't know whether the Somerset County Airport, perhaps someone in our newsroom could tell me, was capable of handling a 747, but we just don't know how that was connected. But we do know the United Airlines confirming a flight from Newark to San Francisco, the Boeing 747 has crashed.
Also, as you continue here to look at some of the unbelievable pictures from around the city this morning, we also want to remind you that if you are having a problem moving into or out of Manhattan today, just stay calm, don't be surprised. All bridges and tunnels have been shut down. In fact, at this point, the only tunnel that we know of that has any traffic going through it is the Midtown Tunnel. We are told that traffic has once again being allowed outbound through the Midtown Tunnel. Everything else has been shut down. Mass transit is shut down. Obviously, emergency law enforcement officials want to make sure to secure these areas before they allow traffic to move through them again.
I want to move back center. My conscience is bothering me. The pictures we saw of people cheering in the Middle East, we do not, ladies and gentlemen, know what country that was from. There are, of course, some countries in the world that would cheer this event. Most would not, and most countries in the Middle East would not cheer the loss of innocent life, and I want to make that clear, and we do not, by not knowing the locator of that, and I apologize for that, want to disparage any peoples or country.
It's one of the...
Most people do not believe this is the way to get their ends achieved, but there will always be some who will support anything that makes the United States look bad or causes pain to the United States.
You just saw doctors arriving at St. Vincent's down in Greenwich Village there.
Bill, the Associated Press is reporting now that an unnamed police official is saying that the death toll could be in the thousands from the World Trade Center. There is obviously no exact number. There won't be for some time, but they are speculating now that it could be in the thousands, that according to the Associated Press.
At its height, go ahead, Senator.
Yeah, what we can tell you is that the average daily population of workers in the World Trade Center, and keep in mind, This happened very early in the morning. It was likely that many of the workers weren't there yet or just arriving. 50,000 workers on an average day there, 70,000 visitors. Again, early in the morning. Another positive sign, we might add, is that we have spoken to, you've heard from several people, workers in the building that were as high as the 82nd floor that did manage to get out of the tower with just a few minor injuries. So again, we don't know how many people may have been killed, how many injured. We do know that there were people on very high floors that were able to get out of the building.
Yes, and that's
okay.
good news, although Jim's citing the police official saying thousands, he fears thousands may have been killed. They could have been much worse, although it's tragic enough. I want to pass on some information we just got. The video that we showed you of those people cheering from the Middle East was from Jerusalem, a section of Jerusalem, I am assuming. It was those pictures, the Palestinian section of Jerusalem.
This is that videotape again.
This was this morning. We have...
Widen out, maybe we can see where that is. But
this is tape picture. We have indeed achieved a status that does not speak very highly of any of us.
And Bill, maybe we should point out that there is much belief among Palestinian people in Jerusalem and in the West Bank and Gaza, of course, that they are in the position they are in because the United States supports Israel so strongly, and that is why they have such many people there have such distrust and animosity towards the United States.
And of course, Jim, it has been a year since the collapse of the Middle East peace talks that President Clinton tried to push through, and the year this month since the second Intifada and the violence killing scores and scores of Palestinians and Israelis in the Middle East. We want to say that we do have any word, control room in the newsroom, how many schools or if schools have been closed. We know schools in Lower Manhattan have been closed. Obviously, the election today has been called off and suspended. All the airports are shut. The Yankee game tonight
called off.
Has been called off.
Bill, in fact, the entire air traffic system in the United States is closed down right now. Every plane that is in the air is being ordered to land at the closest safe airport to land at. And a spokesperson for American Airlines, who, of course, has lost at least 2 of these planes today, and several of scores of their own employees and passengers, says, "We are horrified by these tragic events." That is the chairman and CEO of American Airlines. They will not be operating, American TWA, American Eagle will not be operating until further notice.
It has been 2 hours and 55 minutes since a commuter plane crashed into the first North Tower of the World Trade Center. 18 minutes later at 9:03 Eastern Time, a second plane, which American Airlines is saying flight number 11, a 767, en route from Boston to Los Angeles with 81 passengers on board, was hijacked and crashed into the second tower. At 9:35 this morning, you saw it right there. Second tower crashed into a 767. It was very hard to tell how big that plane was from our vantage point.
Yeah.
At 9:35, the Pentagon plane crashed there. It is still on fire. At 10 a.m., the first tower collapsed. At 10:15, the State Department in Washington reported a car bombing. At 10:30, the second tower collapsed. You're about to see the first tower collapse.
Unbelievable video.
It is an image that will be with us forever.
There are so many images from these last 2 hours that will stay with us forever. I tell you, I am struck by the picture from earlier of the F-16 patrolling the airspace around New York. That we would ever come to a day when that would be necessary, when we would have to bring in F-16s to make sure our airspace was clear and safe.
We're about to see the second tower, the North Tower, collapse, I believe, in this next shot. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a flash right before it collapsed. There was a flash of flame right before it collapsed. Are we going to see this? Yeah. Watch this flash right before it collapses. You'll see it there.
The fire.
And there was a flash.
There was definitely a flash there. I'm not sure that it didn't happen didn't come out after it
started
to collapse. There is so much weight there.
Once the infrastructure is breached, the whole thing comes down. David Ushery has been following the closures and the up to the date developments in the city for us. He's in the newsroom. David?
To be partially involved.
911 operators and all of its uniformed officers to report to work immediately, and that includes all of the agencies of the NYPD. Once again, all 911 operators, all uniformed officers report to work immediately. The NYPD also wants people to understand, if you had some business to conduct today in Manhattan and you were planning on heading in, please do not. There will be no business conducted today, regardless of what it is, pretty much. Also, if you can leave Manhattan or if you can go home and done with your business, please do that. It will just make things a lot easier for emergency vehicles to get around. It will also make all locations in Manhattan a little less vulnerable. So again, all 911 operators, all uniformed officers, please report to duty. Back to you in the studio.
All right, David, that's good advice. We are awaiting a press conference from American Airlines in Boston as you watch smoke still pour. Now, you heard Sarah Wallace earlier say we in the Eyewitness Newsroom have gotten a couple calls reporting an explosion at the Embassy Suites hotels in Battery Park City. Jeff Rossen, at about 11:15 or 11:10, was reporting live and said he heard an explosion. We want to get an update on what might be happening down there because that's new smoke rising. Sarah Wallace, I'm sorry, control room, what are we going to? Okay, we want to go to some of the sound bites and sound from the witnesses. Nope, we're now going. Go ahead, Sarah.
There's a live news conference right now in Boston.
We've closed the airport to all arriving and all departing flights. We've increased our security measures. We've shut down all the construction sites within Logan Airport, both airside and landside. And we've shut down all security checkpoints and removed all passengers who had been previously screened out into the non-secure part of the airport. We've activated our Family Assistance Center at the Hilton Hotel based upon some reports that some of these flights may have originated from Boston. We're asking the media's assistance to notify any family members that may have had families flying on those flights that we've had various reports on to call these following numbers. American Airlines, 800-245-0999. Secondly, family members can call a Massport number, 617-568-3100. We've also urging people not to come to the airport at this point in time. We've increased the shuttle buses from the terminals to the MBTA Blue Line stop, and the MBTA has increased the frequency of subway transportation. We are in close communication with the FAA, the FBI, State Police, Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
You have been listening to Joseph Lawless, I believe, with the Port Authority in Boston. He is, of course, referring to that Boeing 767, I believe it was, Flight 11 that came out of Boston this morning. That, I believe, is the plane that crashed into the first tower. Is that correct, Jim? Or the second tower?
Second tower. Yep.
The one that, in fact, you have seen on videotape this morning, the South Tower. Again, just side on your screen. That was a flight out of Boston, Flight 767. He's simply giving direction. May have had loved ones, friends on that flight.
Unbelievably disturbing. Disturbing scenes. We want to go to some of the sound and interviews we've been doing with some of the witnesses that saw this destruction firsthand this morning.
I was in One World Trade Center.
And what was it like in there? Did they start evacuating?
Yeah, because as soon as it got hit, I was thrown to a window. So I was very lucky to get out. There's a lot of people that didn't get out. There's a lot of people coming down the stairs, burnt up. It's bad.
Were there other people that were hurt, were lying
there? There was a lot of people hurt. They were lying on the floors, coming down the stairs. A lot of people had asthma attacks while they were coming down. It was